Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Beacons Are Lit, a Lord of the Rings podcast. I'm the host, Mike Marbeck, and today I'm joined by Matt Garin
Hey there.
and Stacy Lyons.
Hello.
Yes, thank you both for being here. Kelly, once again out of the
Yeah,
pod.
I'm so mad at her.
Looking
I
so
hope
weird.
I hope she just watches episode 8 and then joins us for that.
Uh, I think there's a non-zero chance that that will happen. So quite possibly. But yeah, Kelly, we'll miss you once again. Before we get to this episode, which is going to be covering episode 7, just episode 7. We did 1 through 3, we did 4 through 6, and now we're doing just one episode finally. Episode 7 of season 2 of The Rings of Power. But before we get to it, gotta say, quick news from the mark. I was wrong. It's
Oh,
not often. It's not
oh,
often, but I was wrong about
oh my
something that I've
gosh.
said on this podcast.
This
And I'm
isn't
not.
new. This isn't news from the mark. This is redacted from the mark.
Yeah, right. This, and it has
Retract.
nothing to do with anything I've gotten wrong as far as Lord of the Rings lore.
I
Let's get that
was
out of the way.
I was 100% certain that's what it was going to be.
No, it's not. I don't care about that. What it has to do with is the fact that I said that we had job security with this podcast, and that the show had been renewed. It has not yet been renewed for a season 3,
Are you
officially renewed.
are you telling me we might not have health insurance this time next year?
I'm saying the Cobra's pretty expensive.
I was
Uh,
I was going to ask for dental this time around too, so that's a
Well,
huge blow.
well, what about me? I just put a huge down payment on a house. Okay, huge down
well,
payment.
to be fair, Mike, we all told you not to do that. We all really
Yeah,
warned against it. It's a bad time. We're.
We were like, Mike, you're gonna have to refinance anyway. Interest rates are so high.
You
Just
yeah,
didn't
wait.
you didn't put enough down. I mean, it was a
No.
silly investment. This one's actually on you. This is your fault.
it really is. It really is. And it's haunted. All
That
right. But yeah, before we get to the recap once again, more things will be in the way, and that includes our contest for rating and reviewing this podcast has been going on for the better part of a year. So I think it's about time we pick some winners. But before we get to that, there is one more entry that I would like to read, and this comes from Callum. Callum, who
From what country?
Australia, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read it in nothing but an Australian accent.
I hope it's
I wouldn't.
nice.
Um, I'm pretty sure Australia. You'll understand why I'm assuming so.
Okay.
It begins. Good day, mate. I'm just kidding. It does. It begins. Hey, Beacons crew. Just wanted to send an email and let you know how much I enjoyed the podcast. I started listening after a recommendation from my friend Audrey, whose email you recently read out during your comeback podcast. I love it that he's labeling it the comeback podcast because technically each one we do is a comeback podcast because we're never sure when the next one's going to be.
That's right. But I
So,
like
yeah.
this underdog narrative. We're a comeback,
Yes.
baby.
Yeah, the podcast made my trips to and from work much more pleasant for several weeks. And when I was finished binging, I felt empty inside and unsure of what to do next, as I looked forward to spending more time listening to the podcast and being in the virtual company of such fun people. It took me some time to recover from the Sean Bean slander, and I can't unhear Vigo's nasally voice during the Council of Elrond, but I'll be charitable and let those slide. I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, and I have been since seeing Fellowship at the cinema as a naive little 10-year-old lad. My collection borders on the unhinged as I have action figures, books, swords, art prints, and more. The movies mean so much to me, and I listen to the Andy Serkis Lord of the Rings audiobooks every year now. Now, Matt, you can identify with some of this, yeah?
What?
Or
What?
you collect the
Mm,
Legos.
Oh,
Matt
yes,
is
yes, yeah.
Matt's
Sorry, I was
speechless.
so. I was in shock that there was an Andy Serkis audiobook that I haven't
Mm-hmm.
listened to. I never even thought to listen to audiobooks of this. All right, that's got to be my next thing there. I mean, there's so much in there. I mean, Audrey's friend is recommending us. This person wants to
Hmm.
spend more time with us, and is a fellow Lego collector. Let's talk bricks, guy. I mean,
Yeah.
or person, hit me up. I don't again,
Yeah.
Callum.
He's
I don't
he
know.
said
I just
lad. He knew that we were gonna ask, and
all
so
right.
Yeah.
he is identifying as a lad. So
Yes. Also, it might be a fun idea to do The Hobbit, because I believe that Andy Serkis does a Hobbit reading, if I'm not mistaken. So we
Oh,
could podcast in portions of that and also encourage people to read, I guess. So
I'd
this
love to
continues.
podcast.
The timing of your
oh,
return is pretty uncanny, as I went to a Lord of the Rings marathon in Sydney a week ago. Audrey was also there. Ooh, I'm just kidding. And I'm currently in New Zealand doing as many Lord of the Rings related things as possible, including visiting filming locations and touring the WHYY workshop in Wellington. My crowning achievement was doing the 12-mile Tongariro, I'm not sure how that said, crossing and seeing Mount Naruhoi, something like that. He has a pronounced Naru-Hoi, Naruhoi, maybe, or Naruhoi
I
in
need.
person.
I'm a visual person. I need
Well,
to
I mean,
see.
the
here's the thing.
same.
He has it all there, but you know what? He also has, it's better known as Mount Doom.
Yeah.
I've even
Mount
stood
Doom,
on the
Mount
cliff.
Doom.
I've even stood on the cliff where Aragorn and Theoden stood in Return of the King while overlooking the quote bivouac at Dunharrow. Uh, a,
What?
sh- a shame your return is about Rings of Power. I'm looking forward to hearing you discuss some good stuff. Ouch. Hopefully, War of the Rohirrim will be that good thing. Kindest regards, Callum. P.S. Still waiting on that award show for Return of the King and the Two Towers. Please don't delete them this time. Double ouch.
I
Oh,
first of all need to say that Audrey has really nice people surrounding her, i.e.,
yes.
maybe her dad and her friends. That because that was such a nice email. Thank you so much, Callum. And also, welcome to the loser club with a hard L,
Yeah.
with a big capital L, like a bold
Yes.
italic underline L.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yes. We will one day meet up and take out Pennywise. All
Yeah.
right. So our winners, what I did was I put these, there's a random.org. It's a website, and you can put in different lists. So I had numbered these things, typed them in. Although I will say, I'll be completely honest, I put the people who wrote us letters in a separate randomizer. So those were kind of skewed more heavily in their favor.
Like just
Um,
emails versus ratings.
yes.
Okay.
So you had people that had left us a review and typed a little
Hmm.
bit, and then you had people that wrote us books, uh, which was
Oh, yeah.
yeah, which is pretty nice.
Very nice.
So our winners are Wafflemeister for a review, uh, the underscore RJ for a review, and Audrey for an email that was sent. So you
The
can
big
email us.
three. The
Yes, big
big
three.
three.
Yes, three of them were given to the fans.
Wow.
Um, yes.
Wow.
So
I kind of want to send like Callum like something out of my personal collection.
Like a
no.
minifig.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking to offload some of my Legos anyway. I'll ship them a anything. I mean, that's just so nice. That was just such an unbelievable and so interesting. You got to do all the New Zealand things. Very cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
well, he could also, once a new contest begins, which is now, Callum can write it again another time because it'll probably go on for a year or so.
Yeah, keep this.
So,
Maybe a win, okay, Callum? Just hang in there.
yes.
Congrats. Well,
Yeah,
congrats to the
congrats.
winners. I hope that
Congrats.
none of the winners were that mean English guy that did not
No, actually,
was not charmed by me.
no haters won, which is a
Nice.
first, I think.
Now,
Um,
did you say Wafflemeister was a winner?
yes,
Do we know where they are? Because they sound
that's
German. We have some
that's what I
German.
was going to say. They are probably listeners, although it's hard to say when you have such an inconsistent um, output as we do.
Yes.
They can email us at beacons at xroadscomedy.com. claim their shirts. Audrey, it's going to take a little bit more work to get you your shirts because I've never, as I've said, I've never shipped anything across the pond or across the world for that matter.
Yeah, it'll
So
be all right.
we'll get it to you. I think that it's 2024 and people can now do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I think so. We'll figure it
yeah,
out. We'll
yeah.
send it. We'll do whatever it takes to get you these really, really, really nice shirts.
That
Nice
we
things.
don't yet own either.
That's true. Still waiting
That's
on my
true.
turn, Mike.
Yeah, I think I had asked for sizes at one point
He
and I never heard back.
100% asked us for sizes and colors, and
Yeah,
none of us
no one,
responded.
Was this in the
no
time
one.
period where I was not in the text chain? I don't
It's
know.
possible.
I think
And
it
let's be
was,
clear, you were in the text chain, but you were not for some reason getting texts.
Yeah, yeah. I lost the phone, got a new one for some reason. The texts weren't coming through.
Yeah. All right. Moving on.
You think I'm
Um,
lying?
moving on from the liar segment. Just kidding. To
I
the
I
so
was with Matt when we realized how many memes he had missed. Lord of the
Mhm.
Rings memes that were missed, and he was
Saw it.
stunned. Yeah, so
episode 7, the siege of Eregion. Is it's finally happening, although it technically kind of started last episode, but it's happening now. I want to hear some first impressions. How you feeling about this siege of Eregion? There, Beb,
uh,
Stacy.
I was so in. I was so in on this episode. Oh my God. I watched it late at night, and you know me, I can't do that. I fall asleep, I get grumpy. I stayed awake for the whole thing, so that's a big compliment.
Cool.
And it really is, honestly,
It
for
really is.
me. It really is. It was it was a cool Lord of the Rings battle sequence that I could get behind. And I truly loved like the deception of Sauron being a part of it. You
Yeah,
know how everything played out with Celebrimbor, and everything played out in front of him and his men, and I just really liked it.
sure,
Yeah,
sure. Matt.
yeah. Pretty good, Mike. It's pretty good stuff. It was all right, you know. Some of us are starting to come around, starting to. Maybe you're Sauron. Maybe you're the Great Deceiver. Maybe you're pulling the wool over our eyes. No,
Mike,
uh,
who's the showrunner for this series?
no, but I had fun with this app. I mean, I have my complaints, of course, and I'll talk too long about them. But overall, had a fun time with this episode. It was great. I think it's probably the best the show's ever been. And I think part of that is because we didn't see any of the fucking Harfoots in that whole plot line. Happy to
or
not have to deal with that for like an
or
hour.
Theo. We got no Theo, right?
I know Theo
Yeah,
either. Yeah, I think we had the best of the cast assembled for this episode, and we got some good action, and yeah, lots of orcs. Too dry.
And
Let me be clear, they're still too dry for my taste.
we even dammed the river to get them drier than they were.
yeah.
Couldn't deal with
But
that water.
there
Too.
was also a smooch.
There was a smooch. The
There was a
smooch.
smooch.
We're gonna talk
Yeah,
about it.
We're
The
gonna have to
scoop
talk
of the
about that.
century, they're calling it. So,
yeah,
The
yeah.
smooch heard
Smooch of the
round the
age.
world.
Yeah, smooch of the age. Uh, I agree with all that. I thought it was a really good episode. I thought it was a very well done overall. Let me qualify that a little bit. It was overall a very well done battle. This show gets a lot of hate. I don't know if you've seen or heard any of it. I'm just kidding. You've been a part of it. Um, uh, for a lot of different things.
I actually don't know the hate that it gets outside of like racists being angry that there's like multiracial elves and stuff or whatever.
There's that. There's people that complain about that it's not following the books, or it's being too loose with the loose lore. There's a whole lot of different reasons why people throw hate at this show. Um, but I think it's well done. I think it's visually beautiful in a lot of different settings that they have. I thought the battle sequences were overall very well done. Um, I think the acting's overall pretty damn good. So yeah, I was really pleased with this episode. The one thing, and we'll talk more about it, that I would say is that I still have no real sense of how many people there are in these places.
None.
When
It
they're
it
whether it's
yeah, there's just a lack of extras in every sequence. Like we need to pad these out with like a
yeah,
couple hundred people at least. Like everything everywhere feels very small. Eregion feels small.
I can answer that
The
question because I counted the people on the screen in Eregion, and it was about 2 dozen. There were about 2 dozen people in Eregion.
the
That
like
was it.
the dwarf revolt, like there's like 10 miners like around. Like we need more people. Like they keep talking about
they are minors.
how big Adar's army is. Daddy Adar's got this big army apparently that can beat an elf army, two elf armies. And I'm
Yeah,
like, where are these numbers? I'm not really seeing them, to be honest. And then
yeah.
the elf army shows up and we just see the one like wide row of them, and that's about it. Where
Yeah,
is
every once in a while you would see piles of bodies over different places, but I think if they had, like, if that's where they trimmed the budget, that's weird because extras will just do it for the tape, kind of
yeah.
just put my name in the credit and we're square.
Do you
So it's
think
weird.
that that scene where Grima Wormtongue is like looking out and starts crying because of how many like orcs he sees? Do you think that was CGI?
Yeah, I think a good amount of it
Because
was had to
that
have been
was
CGI.
amazing.
It was like 10,000. Yeah.
Why aren't we doing that? That was so good.
I don't
Show me
remember.
show me scale.
I don't remember which.
I
You
think
do. And
the
Saruman is showing him. He's like, "This is going to be the end of men," and Grima's like, "Oh man!" And it's like a billion
yeah,
people
and he
going to
steps
march
back and
towards.
he's crying.
Yeah,
He's got
I
that tear.
I think it's also too indicative of just how like the Lord of the Rings trilogy was able to seize on that moment in time with the resources that it had. Like it basically united an entire city in New Zealand
Right?
around like making this movie. Like everyone in the towns were like involved in like making this, and they had just like an insane number of people not only helping to craft it but also helping to like just be extras and like be in it and stuff like that. And you can't really do that anymore, and not with this property, and especially when you're like shooting in England where like there's more unions involved and stuff like that. I feel like Peter Jackson was just able to like rally his home country basically into making an entire amazing
Yeah.
trilogy.
I
and I
also
think
think
also there's like
good.
that cone of secrecy right around the making of this, and they're not even like telling people what roles they're
Right.
playing for a long time. And so, how many people are they really gonna like get involved in what's happening? I just don't know if that's still going on or not.
Yeah. There's also, you know what? Just give me 20 more people. Just give me 20 more. It's not going to make or break the internet as far as leaks go. Just give me 20 more people. Let me feel like or film it a little bit more creatively so it seems like more people. Throw some fake mustaches on some. I don't care. Just make it seem like there is more people there because that's the one major thing missing from this piece. It seemed as if there were more, like, I definitely got the sense there were more orcs, but it just seemed like in Eregion and the dwarves, like, how is this even a contest? How is this even a war?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it also seemed like there were no like civilians in Eregion.
Yeah.
Like at least with like Helm's Deep, we got to have like the stress of like mothers and children like hiding in the caves, and are they gonna make it out? Like the Eregion looked destroyed by the time Celebrimbor even came out of his spell. And where was everyone? Had they fled? Are they hiding
Yeah. I
somewhere?
think
Like,
that some surely fled.
but where? Where to? I want to see this.
Yeah.
I want to see.
True. I thought the
Yeah.
same thing, Cece. I wanted to see. I didn't feel the weight of Eregion's destruction like I do in the movie trilogy or anything. Like it was just happening, and it's also like, didn't Celebrimbor say like he was like hit, like he was under the spell or whatever for like a week or something, or like didn't Sauron say that? I'm always
He had
confused on
said
how much time.
something. He said something like, "These weeks with you have been very productive," or
Okay,
something along those lines. But I don't know if that means that weeks have passed, or that
okay,
he's talking about since he was just
right.
there.
Do you all have a sense of how long the siege of Eregion was going on for?
Probably a day and
I
a
thought
night.
I thought a couple days.
Okay. Okay.
That's where I mean, because
Yeah.
remember
I
they
just
said something like, "Do you have more news from him? He's been saying the same thing he was saying before." You know, I felt like some
yeah.
time had passed, but it couldn't have been too
Yeah.
long.
That is a really, really undervalued tool in filmmaking and television is just something in the bottom of the screen that says like 4 hours later, you know,
I would love it in this show because I tell
three
you what,
weeks
I
later.
constantly I don't know, I don't want to spend too much time on it if it's not a thing for you all, but are you all like I feel like I've brought it up before and you guys you all don't really agree, but like the timing, like the when things are taking place
Yeah.
in this show is very confusing to me.
I
Because
haven't
Yeah.
answered you, Matt, because it's never crossed my mind. Just because I just assume we're gonna get to where we're like
all right,
I just haven't put any weight on why things are happening when. I'm just kind of assuming it's just all happening and
let me just frame it. I'll frame it this way and then I'll move on because it's fine. But I just like from episode 1 or 2, we've been trying to get messages to Celebrimbor and Eregion through Galadriel, through uh uh Elrond. Um and
Mhm.
then hit some obstacles along the way, right? But it seems like it's gonna take a couple days to get there. But then seemingly uh uh Elrond goes between Dwarf Kingdom and his where the High
Yeah.
King is, and then from where the High King is
And then
to
back. Yeah.
Eregion in like a day. And
Yeah.
it's got Games of Thrones late seasons, post books writing all over it to me, where things should be taking way longer than it should. And I understand that they have to compress things for a timeline, but for me, it really impacts like how things would like how things would unfold within the rules that you're all
Yeah.
setting up. It just seems like they
Yeah.
cheat and cut corners where they need
Yeah.
to.
Because by the time they get there, Eregion should be rubble, entirely rubble.
never
Rubble.
crossed my mind.
That's crazy.
Never
I can't even imagine
It
it not
should be
crossing
rubble,
my mind.
babe.
It's never crossed my mind, Matt. Should it have? I mean,
I don't know. Well, at least Mike knows what I'm saying. But yeah, we
I
don't
know.
we don't
I
have to
got
sit
you.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just telling you.
So let's talk
I
about
don't care.
it's a big battle, so there's battle to talk about, but as far as storylines within the battle go, let's talk about the dwarf side of things. Leading up to
Yeah.
that, we basically have I think it was Narvi that goes to Disa and Doran and says, "Your dad's gonna kill us all," more or less. Something's got to be done, and then they go to fight. They think they're gonna fight, and then the other dwarves are like, "We're with you. We're with you. He's gonna destroy us, but somebody's got to take that ring off him. Do something, whatever. I don't care what." And then what?
Then Elrond shows up and Durin's like, I'm about to overthrow my father.
Yeah. I can't believe we're going to do it.
And then there is a coup, but it's largely off screen. We don't see any of the fighting. We just get the one dwarf that comes back, right, and tells him that he has to recall the troops, right?
Yeah. I think Desus says that, right? Recall the truth. I can't remember.
He's
Um,
relaying the message from Diza
gotcha.
and
Yeah.
Diza to recall the
But
troops.
it was after his big rousing speech
Yeah.
to seemingly
Right.
all of Khazad-dûm, and
Hmm.
everyone's on board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was one where we
With
felt
all
like there
two
was a lot of
dozen of
people.
Khazad-dûm is on board. All 2 dozen of them.
No, it
well,
felt like
so
more than
then
that.
it was like 2 dozen, but then they zoomed out the little
Yeah.
window, and then they showed
I'm
10,000,
joking. Okay,
and
Yeah.
I was like, good because we need numbers.
Yeah.
But then they came back and they were like, wait, we need these men. If we don't have these men here, Khazad-dûm are gonna fall. Is that what's
Yeah,
happening?
but do you need that many? I thought
Well,
this, but
it's
it was
probably more
also
of a
in
matter
the
of
um
Durin leaving.
we don't
well,
see who Durin has on his side, who King Durin has on his side at all. We don't see his numbers,
yeah, that's fair.
you know? So
That's
that
fair.
I think what you're asking is a valid question because it's like, how many more people do we need?
Yeah.
Because how many people is he defending the kingdom with? I don't know.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so the dwarves promise to come. Elrond makes this
Oh,
he has
I
this
see.
emotional
Yeah.
moment. They promise to come. Elrond goes back and he relays the message. The dwarves are coming at first light, and so the whole time he's like pumped to see them. But we're skipping ahead through the whole like Elrond first shows up with his whole array of elves, all on horseback, gleaming white,
Right. Well, we're trying to talk to
screaming.
Yeah, I was just trying to
Oh, okay.
cover them, get them out of the way.
Okay.
Um,
No,
Yeah, so
that's
and
pretty much it.
they don't show up to the battle on first light, and Elrond can't believe it.
yeah.
Um,
They do
yeah,
have that moment where you think they're going to show up. That almost classic. It's the cavalry coming over the hill. They do it in Two Towers with Gandalf and the Rohirrim, but
yeah.
it's just some busted up guy on a on a horse, and he's like,
That
"They're not coming."
no one cares about.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
coming.
Elrond's shaking him. He's like, "You have to be mistaken," and the guy is actively dying.
Yeah, they're
I
not
I
coming.
would have it should have just been one guy on the horseback comes over and he looks normal, and then we see him from afar and he just slumps over in his saddle and dies. We see an arrow in his back, and then
Mm-hmm.
just
And
nothing
then
happens for like a full 20 seconds after that, and then
yeah.
Elrond's like, "Oh shit, they're really not coming."
Or
Yeah,
it's one
or
of
a
those
battalion
things
of orcs
where,
coming over.
or like there's an arrow in his back, and between the arrow, like where it connects to his back, there's just like a note, and it's like not coming dash Durin.
Or one of the orcs is weekend at Berniesing him and
Yeah.
like holding it, waving his arm, like, come
It's really
on.
just three orcs in a trench coat, dressed up like an elf.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and that's it for the dwarves until we get to episode 8. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
that's it for
Okay.
the dwarves.
Uh, all right.
Felt-
So
it
back
felt like the
to
important sorry, just want to say just a quick thought about the dwarf line is that it felt like a lot of important stuff was happening and we really weren't seeing it. We don't see the whole coup unfold. We
yeah,
don't see like a betrayal in his father's eyes, or like his father like mercilessly defending his throne or something like
I
that.
didn't think that that was what it was. Did they say that? Did I completely miss that? I thought it was more like he was being really greedy and he was insisting that they mine and they were waking up the ball. Didn't they mention the Balrog by name? Didn't or not like
Well,
not like by name, they called it like the beast or whatever, and they're like,
yeah,
it's awake, we have to be here to protect our people.
yeah.
maybe I'm
Um,
misinterpreting, but I believe the guy with the black beard, the dwarf with the black beard, shows up and has blood across his face and says something to the effect of King Durin cutting through men like wheat, like fields of wheat.
mm.
And so I took that to mean that there was a lot of action going on that Disa was tied up in. But
Did they or did they not mention the Balrog though?
they mentioned the Balrog
Okay,
right
I'm sorry.
before that, I think.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
I know. Sorry
just
to everyone who's
Listen,
listening.
I just watched it like an hour ago, so I got the freshest memory here,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also the worst brain. So who you decide on what to believe.
Yeah. So that's the dwarves. We can get back to some other stuff as it comes up. We don't see the Harfoots. We don't see the stranger. We don't see Grandalf. Um,
Randolph.
Nope,
yeah,
Tomby Bombies.
no Tomby Bombies. Um, so
But
the
he
rest of it
vanished.
really is just the battle, which for the most part is the battle, and then you have Celebrimbor and Anatar and Gil Galad and Elrond, and Galadriel and Adar and Arondir kind of going around. So what strikes you? What do you like? You had mentioned, Stacy, the Gil Galad showing up.
Gil Galad showed up. Elrond, I liked Elrond's the charge with all the horses. I really liked that. And then Daddy Adar brings out the box. What's in the box? What's in the
Yeah,
box? And
yeah,
they were able to stop their elves on a dime,
yeah.
which is always appreciated. I just pictured one flying right into the orc ranks, but no.
Right. Taking
And
the
it was
Galadriel.
I would have liked to have seen a scared orc though. The one who was just a little unsure whether or not they were going to
Yeah, if
stop
they're gonna.
like the Return of the King. When, like that one guy's like, Are we really gonna stay in here and take all these horses charging right at us and the Rohirrim show up?
They're not stopping. I know, but yeah, these orcs, some of them are meth heads.
Yeah.
They're like a little different than the Lord of the Rings elves in that I think they're a little more manic.
Yeah.
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 They're drier, and part of that's because they haven't drank in any water in
No.
days because they are high on speed.
They have been cracked out of their minds. So then we have the we have the Galadriel in the box. And I mean,
Yeah,
the second
like
you
that.
saw the box, you knew what it was going to be.
The guy's got a spear to her neck and she's bleeding a
Yeah.
little bit. It's good. I like
Yeah.
it. Good part. And then there's that tense conversation between Elrond and
Yeah.
Adar.
So they pause the war, and all the elves, I just imagine, are standing there looking at all the orcs while these guys just treat in a hut, which is always so funny that there's rules of war to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Even for orcs.
For everyone. They're just, do you think they're chatting? I don't know. What do you think they're doing? Do you think they're bivouacking somewhere else?
Definitely bivouacking. There's got to be bivouacking going.
Yeah, so they have the little combo in the hut, and that's, Elrond will give you Galadriel for the ring.
Yeah, and Adar wants them to join, I guess, to fight Sauron. But Sauron, he has no army. Like, I mean, really, he has the elves there. So I guess they want him to join with them to fight the elves, which they're not going to do, right? So Adar's plan is kind of weird.
Also, how do you defeat Sauron? I don't like it didn't make it clear
Not
because
simply.
he was brutally murdered at the beginning of this season and still was alive. And so I don't know what their plan is for killing him. When they're like, I have to beat Sauron, I don't know what the idea is behind that.
There's a couple weird plans in this episode, this definitely being one of them, because if you want to expose Sauron, maybe the worst way to do it is to just like start out and out war with him if you're going to try to convince the elves to go on your side, because then clearly they're not going to help you. Why not like camp out and like lay I guess not siege, but what is it called when you cut off their resources and stuff, and so they have no food or like water getting in, do whatever
Blockade.
that is, and yeah, and then be like, Sauron, like, show yourself, get something like that's gonna
What are you
have
waiting
a better
for?
chance of working, Yeah, what are you waiting for? Stand outside
What
for
are
a
you
rock.
waiting for?
Stella,
Yeah.
Sauron.
And
Maybe.
yeah, they're in there in the hut treating, and Elrond basically says, "We're not going to do any of that. That's not going to happen." And he's like, "Hey, do you mind if I go chat with her, since this may be the last time I get to chat with her?" And he's like, "Sure, I guess."
Well, first
and
he looks at his guard on Galadriel, and the guard shrugs and goes, "He's unarmed."
he's not got anything on him. Why not? Let him have a little
like-
chit chat, eh?
Haven't we already? Didn't you when you guys kidnapped Galadriel? Didn't she shoot out a wrist blade all of a sudden and like, had that in the guy's neck? Like, don't trust that the elves are unarmed. Like, what are you all doing?
Yeah. And then he takes off the pin, brooch, whatever it is, his little shoulder lockpicking kit, and then they have this kiss, they have this smooch,
Mooch.
which
A
is
gentle smooch.
which seemed to be just for handing off this device, this pin.
The way that I immediately thought he had something in his mouth that he was going to give to her, like the ring, but then there was no tongue. It was not a tongue kiss. So I was like, it can't have been that.
Yeah.
And we didn't find out about the handoff till a little bit later.
No, they showed it on screen.
Oh, did they? I was so
Yeah.
distracted by the fact that they were kissing.
Yeah, well,
that
you were
I
one of the
only
orcs.
figured
That
it
was
out.
the point.
I only figured it out later
It was
because I
sleight
was
of-
like, what the hell are they doing?
It was the
'Cause,
art
like-
of distraction.
Like, no offense. You guys are some of my dearest friends. I've known you for a decade and I love you. But if you were about to die, I would just not smooch you. I'd be like,
Yeah.
probably making bad jokes and being like, see you when I see you.
Mm-hmm.
It would be inappropriate if you did.
It would be alarming.
So why
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
So I was distracted by the smooch. I guess I wasn't working the hut in that situation.
Yeah. And then the live studio audience went, ooh.
Elrond and Galadriel
Yeah,
sitting
I
in the hut.
I was confused. It took me a second to be like, oh, it was a distraction thing, but also was like, is that really what the show wants me to believe? Because again, I kind of felt
Yeah.
like they wanted me to think that there was maybe something here. Maybe not,
Yes.
in which case my confusion is absolutely justified.
No, I think that the show wants you to think that there's something there. I think that there were probably other ways to go about getting that lock picking tool, that
Yeah.
pin to Galadriel that wasn't introducing something that I haven't seen it, and I know it's there though. It's just a lot of hate. Like, why are they doing this? What's happening?
Now, Mike, do you know this is part of the lore where Galadriel and Elrond ever an item?
No, if I remember correctly, Galadriel is Elrond's mother-in-law.
Is that true?
Pretty sure.
Okay, wow. That
Yeah.
is news. Talk about
I
news
don't
from the
I
North.
don't
That
know
is-
if that's
I mean, that's
true at this.
eventually.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true at this time.
No one's married right now.
Right.
That would have come up. I mean, I didn't see it as like a, are they trying to get them together way? And I would be totally fine if they weren't going to infuse any sort of romantic tension into their relationship and it was just like a friendly kiss meant as a distraction or like an affectionate, like we both might die, no hard feelings. Because I get such like annoyed brother, annoyed sister vibes from them that
Yeah.
that this just wouldn't make sense to me. So
I
Absolutely.
do
Fingers
have
crossed.
something that I learned. I know that we try not to educate and really just go off of our thoughts and feelings about stuff and our interpretations and don't try to bring facts into things on this podcast. But there's one thing I learned in this last weekend. I think it's a pretty cool fact, and I'd like
Wow,
to
it's
share
gonna
it.
have to wait for a totally different podcast.
No. So we all know that Elrond is what? Half human, half elf, right? That's what everybody seems to know. But guess what? That's incorrect. Elrond is part elf, part human, and part Maiar. Just like
And
Gandalf.
Maiar,
He's got
just
like part Gandalf in him. Not like
Is-
actual Gandalf, just like the species, the
Right.
Maiar.
Yes.
is Galadriel also like that?
Uh, I'm not sure. I learned one thing. I didn't have room for two.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, see,
That's
this
it.
is what
Is that my
happens when
limit?
you learn things. I have more questions.
It leads.
So stop teaching me if you're not going to teach me everything.
Exactly. If you don't know everything, don't teach anything.
If you don't know everything, don't know
Ishtar
nothing.
Almighty, Mike. No, I'm just going to forget that
No,
fact.
that is interesting. If he's part Maiar,
Yeah, that was cool.
pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Pretty
Who
cool
else?
there,
Yeah,
but-
I'm in agreement. I want to know who else is Maiar. Is Galadriel like that? Is the High King like that? But this gets another thought going in the mind. Legolas was super good at fighting, right? Like
Oh.
crazy good.
Yeah.
Was he just really great for elves? Like, and most elves are just like meh at fighting.
I think
'Cause
they're.
I thought elves were super good at fighting, like in general, and could all kill like a bunch of orcs like pretty easily.
I think that
I think some
elves
just
are-
like are artists.
Yeah, I think elves are good at fighting. I think a big part of that is how long they've been alive. So that,
Right.
like, they're putting in their 10,000 hours. I
Yeah.
think Legolas, I think that wasn't he a prince of his woods? He probably had like very good training and was also just very good at it. I think that they're like precise
Yeah.
and they're practiced, but I think they're trying to drive home that like Legolas and like Arondir are also like good intuitively and are extra acrobatic and et cetera, et cetera. I think there's like standouts, and I think that's what they're trying to do with Arondir if he wasn't so boring.
Yeah. It could also be the case that after this war that we're building toward, this war of the second age. I can't remember what they call it. It could be the case that elves were like, you know what? We should do what North Korea and South Korea do. And it's like all the young kids get put into,
Or mandatory base.
mandatory military school for a certain amount of time, so that they are prepared
Yeah.
when called upon for that last alliance. Oh, I think that's what they call that, right? This war, the War of the Last Alliance. I think this is what I think I stumbled into something I knew.
And
Hey,
that
I'm
would
excited to get in there.
make sense, Mike, if that were true, because do you remember when the elves, obviously you remember, at Helm's Deep when they showed up and we have them like fire and they all fire at once, they're not even looking and they all
Mhm.
hit.
Right.
And then in Eregion they're like not doing anything, right?
But I will say in the prologue of the Lord of the Rings movies, which is like I guess the end of this show is probably going to lead up to at some
Yeah.
point. If we get there, who knows? Season
Hmm.
three is not approved. But remember
Hmm.
in the prologue, all the elves could do that cool knife,
Mm-hmm.
do that cool blade move, all in like sequence, like they're like synchronized
Yes.
dancers.
So
Um,
synchronized.
so, and I'm not seeing that caliber of fighting in most of the elves this season.
Yeah.
Just Arondir.
Well, we
Definitely
saw a
not in
lot of
Eregion.
that. We saw a lot of that in the prologue for this series, when they were taking down Morgoth. If you remember, the very first
I don't even.
scene of the series is a prologue for leading into the Second Age, and all the events that we are watching. So yeah, they have to get a little training under their belts.
Yeah. Neither here nor there. I was just it was something that was on my mind as I was watching these elves kind of lose these battles against the orcs in a pretty disastrous way.
Yeah. The other thing I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
mention, I'm sorry, is that Anatar, Sauron, aka Sauron, is running around lying about things that Celebrimbor has not said. Because they're getting fired upon, shit's falling apart, and they're like, "Hey, everybody, Celebrimbor said no counterattack. It's
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
do it. Not gonna happen." Um, and then they do the moment where they turn their catapults toward the mountain to dam the river, and he says to prepare for a ground assault because he recognizes that they're damming the river so that they can cross, and then he kind of takes charge of things, because he needs to buy time for the rings to get done.
Right.
That's all he cares about.
Yeah. The damming of the river, I guess it was cool when it was happening. We just never really saw it pay off, did we? Or did we
Yeah,
see
we
them move
did.
across it?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Hmm.
all the mud fighting,
Yeah,
remember? That's when
Oh,
Gil
okay.
the
Galad
mud
showed up.
wrestling.
Yeah, the
Oh,
damming of
okay.
the
I didn't
river
realize that was
was,
the basin of the river. Got
I
it.
thought it was
Yeah.
cool. Thought it was a little too easy. How has no one done this before? Took like three rocks.
Yeah.
Took like three big rocks.
Yeah,
Pretty.
to just bring down a mountain.
Come on, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if they could bring down a mountain like that easily, why they couldn't bring down the man-made castle wall that
Hmm.
easily? I don't
Yeah.
Those
know.
rocks that they felled looked
Yeah.
oddly precariously stacked on that mountain. It was like
Yeah.
limestone. I'm gonna guess
Ready to
it's
fall.
limestone. Yeah.
Yeah. And throughout this, we have Celebrimbor out there just like living his best life, getting these rings done, not knowing how much time has passed.
He's literally
And
like, whistle while you work.
yeah,
He's having
yeah,
the time of his life. He is also on meth in this scene.
yeah.
But he's starting to notice things. He's starting to
Yes.
see things.
Thank you. Because Sauron has him in a little bit of a time loop, but as
Hmm.
things progress outside, he is getting more and more distracted. So Celebrimbor is starting to notice different things that are wrong. He notices a gem missing. He notices himself looking shitty in the mirror. He notices the
The
mouse.
mouse.
He notices the candle because you see him mark where the candle should be melting, and it hasn't melted, and he's starting to catch on. And he's like, once Sauron walks in, he's like, "I got you, you piece of shit! Now I got you." Um, and Sauron's just like, "What are you talking about? What's going on?" And the mouse, I got, I got you. It's
The
happening.
mirror thing really got me, guys. I liked the mirror thing.
When he looked in and saw his true
Yeah,
what he
and he
really
had like
looks like.
soot all over him and stuff,
Hmm.
and then you look back and you're like, no, I look good.
I
Yeah.
kind of missed the mirror. I was looking behind him. I thought that
Uh,
something was gonna appear behind him. I don't know. That's
Mm.
that's
So
weird.
then
well,
they
jump
get
scare
they
bit.
get into it, and then he throws Feanor's hammer through the window, and then it lets in the crowd, not the crowd noise, the war noise, which
Everybody
then,
hollering at
yeah,
the
yeah, woo.
Nine rings, nine rings.
Uh, and then the illusion drops away, and we see the true state of the forge. Everything looks like shit. He looks terrible. What I don't get is that there's stuff all over the place, like all over. Things are falling down. The place is in disrepair. It's in shambles. What I don't get is he was putting up an illusion. So as he's working and going around this whole space, how is he not tripping on stuff? Like, because
I don't
even though
know.
he doesn't see it in his mind, how is he not just like falling over something, you know?
I
this.
don't know, Mike. I thought the same thing. Like it looked like the forge was destroyed and he was making rings with it. I don't know.
This
Oh,
is one of those things where it's like I'm with you. I had the same thoughts, but it and I'm not excusing it, but this is like magic's gonna be magic. Like they just need magic to do whatever they need
Yeah,
magic to do,
for
and so
sure.
that's
see,
what
Matt,
magic is.
that's how I feel about time. I'm like, time's just things are just gonna take however long they take, and I don't need to think too much about that.
But I was like, this place is insane. Like there were columns down, there was like
Mm-hmm.
the blown out walls. Like he's gonna
Yeah.
feel wind on him, right?
Right?
Like
Yeah.
I don't
That's why
know.
he looks so bad. Oh, but then we also find out he lifts up like the things that he's been putting in the rings. He's thinking it's like powder and it's Sauron's
Oh
blood.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
venom.
That
It's
really,
Sauron
oh,
goop.
there was like so much like spooky stuff about this episode that I liked. It's got a Halloween vibe. It's a good time of year to watch it.
Yeah, he's putting a little goop, little
It
Sauron
felt
goop
like
in the
A
Sauron
little
juice.
black tar
yeah.
bit.
It was like a little Twilight Zone episode in the middle of a Lord of the Rings episode. It's kind of cool.
Wait, I love that the
Little
Dennis
black mirror
Miller
bit.
Dennis Miller is becoming like Dennis Miller's Valley Girl daughter.
It's like a little black Mary babe.
Got that.
Look, we all haven't put in the hours of Dennis Miller impressions that you have, okay?
It's still fun. Still fun. So yeah, then they kind of go at it a little bit, and I believe he cuts Sauron, and we see that goop in his hand, um,
Oh, Sauron
and
cut himself. That
oh,
was
he
what
cut
he
himself.
like.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's the goop.
He did a little blood oath
I love
bit.
how like Sauron he just immediately goes into like victim blamey mode. It's like so funny.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
He did.
You
He did
wanted
too.
me to alter your
You
reality.
made me do this.
You begged me for it.
and in you making me make you take longer to do this, you're actually your own torturer. So you actually
Hmm.
have yourself to blame. And it's
Yeah,
like, wait, you're the great deceiver, dude? You take one Psych 101 course, I can
yeah,
break the cycle of
yeah.
bullshit, man.
The
I
great
don't know, Matt.
gaslighter.
I don't know, Matt. But he's so
Yeah,
good looking. What would you do?
Can I ask I want to ask this question, and I mean this question. This isn't a joke. Do
sure.
you all like Sauron more at now than before this show started? Is any of this helping you all like Sauron more?
Matt, Matt.
Because my answer is
One,
I liked him better before I knew Anatar existed.
I'm gonna answer your question in the opposite way and say 100% yes. This show makes me like him more.
I love it. Okay, that's great. I'm
Uh,
happy for you. I'm
I
happy
think
that hottie batty Sauron
I
is.
don't even find Anatar attractive. He's not my type, okay? But I actually like watching him be evil. I think it's compelling to me. I don't know why. I like it.
Good. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, for me, I don't. I think with the films, it seemed he was just more an unseen villain that was unknowingly. knowingly orchestrating all of this stuff. They just like it was just like a take our word for it. He's behind everything.
Yes.
Just trust us. Whereas now we're seeing him. He's very directly behind everything. So I don't know that I liked or disliked him before. I mean, of course I dislike, you know, the Dark Lord. I dislike Sauron. Let's go on a record.
Obviously, we're
Yeah,
all on Team Frodo.
it goes without saying. But let's say it. I still don't know that I would say I disliked him, you know. But of course I disliked him. I just don't think it was
Well,
it
you
was more
dislike
about
him.
disliking everybody that we could see, feel, and touch and run from.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, of course we dislike the most evil being that ever was
Of
because he's
course.
evil, but
Of course.
Obviously.
we like him as the thing for our heroes to oppose. And I liked
Of course.
when I would think of Sauron, I would picture the guy
An
from the
eyeball.
prologue, the giant guy in the
Hmm.
armor, and he's swiping a big thing, and he's got a fire face, and then he becomes an eyeball. Uh, that's
Yada yada
for
yada.
me, that's my Sauron. Okay. And I like that Sauron more than the association I have in my mind now, where I'm like, that's that like shitty Anatar looking
Yeah.
guy
Yes,
who's
but
just
he
like,
has power, and I like seeing the powers that people have. Otherwise, I don't get why they're so scared of him.
Speaking
you didn't
of,
get why they were so scared of Sauron in the Lord of the Rings
I
trilogy.
mean, I got like why he was gonna let evil take over Middle Earth. It was
Okay.
bad,
So,
etc., etc., etc. Like I got that. I got conceptually that he was bad. But I was
okay.
like, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do with this power? What's he gonna do when he controls all these people? Like, what is he capable of? It's kind of
when
like
all
in the
the
same way.
Orcomaniacs
It's like the
run
same way I
wild on
want.
you.
We talked about like we want to see Gandalf like use his powers. Is all he can do control light? I want to see what these people can do, and I appreciate now that I know more about Sauron and what he
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't know that I liked or disliked him before, other than, of course, disliking him. But in this one, I do like him. I like him as a character. I don't necessarily love being him made to be liked or disliked, though, or liked at all. Like, let him be evil. That was one of the things that really worked within Lord of the Rings, is that there was no gray. Like this, he's a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
We're all in agreement. Cool.
I don't think that there's gray now.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah,
I mean, in season one, there's a little bit of it because they're trying to make you think like, is this Sauron? Is it? And they make
yes,
him likable,
because
Haldir,
Halbrand is likable,
Halbrand.
but when he gets to just be Sauron, he's a dick.
Well, I mean, he's a giant ball of goo. Is the only time we've ever just seen him be Sauron. Other
No,
times,
but
we've
you know
seen
what I
him
mean.
be
Like
other personas.
Halbrand not being Sauron was more like when he was with like Galadriel and he was like a tortured king. But when it was just Sauron by himself acting, not the part, he's so mean all the time. He's evil, pure evil all the time.
Yeah. Speaking of two things, one, Stacy or Matt, you just reminded me of a tweet. I can't remember the exact tweet, but I'll paraphrase. Is that someone had said that I love that Galadriel spent like 1,000 years hunting down orcs, trying to find Sauron, uh, spending every waking moment she had, ruining friendships and everything, only to not find him and then find out that he was just like a ball of goo for like the entire time. Just trying to get to the next day.
Just a ball of goo.
This is what he wants you to think, and it's just like a
Yeah.
goo consuming a rat.
He's rising. The other thing, the thing too that I was going to say is that you reminded me of is Stacey, you talked about the power that he has, and we did see some of that power in this episode. First of all, we saw getting back to our thread, he Celebrimbor goes outside, and I love that every time he stands up, he gets knocked down again. He gets up, he gets knocked down.
Get back down.
They're never going to keep him down until they keep him down. Yeah. So
Chumbawamba's playing while he's chopping off his fingers.
I get
yeah.
knocked down. I'll knock it up again.
So he gets out. Yes, chops off his finger in the pencil sharpener or whatever it was, and
That's
goes outside, immediately gets bonked in the head, gets up another time, gets bonked in the head. Um,
seriously, at this
he
point, just have it be coconuts. Like have somebody be slinging coconuts and have the good like, and then he goes
Put
down.
put a banana peel at the top of the stairs and then
Yeah,
Why
whoa.
not?
yeah.
Have
He
some
stands
fun.
up.
Why do we have to be so serious?
He stands up, takes one step, and a rake hits him in the face.
He's
Yeah.
got Tweety Bird going around the top of his head.
So he gets outside, he gets knocked out, he gets up, and he is found by the guards outside, and he's
Oh.
getting uh, taken up, right? Um, and oh, Mardania, is that her name? Mardania, I think the blonde.
Merdania.
Mardania is well, first of all, he goes to her and says, "Hey, you got to listen. Shit's out of control. He's making me see stuff. I didn't say anything that he said that I said. That's all bullshit." And yeah, my don't worry. I'm okay, but my thumb's gone. And she's just like, "You're nuts." He's in control. And then I think he goes around. He gets bonked again. The guards
Yeah,
find him at
he
one point, right?
he he runs into Melandria, whatever her name is, before he cuts off her thumb.
Merdania.
Merdania. Before he cuts off his thumb, that's like earlier on, and then he's back in for a little while, and then he kind of figures it all out. He gets out again, gets bonked again after he cuts off his thumb again.
He's like, great news. I don't have my thumb, but I'm back.
Yeah.
Listen, I've learned a lot. I was stuck in the Matrix. I saw Black Cat twice. I said deja vu, and then the Trinity was like, "What did you say?" And then I cut off my thumb, and now I'm here.
Oh, and that's when the guards. Well, no, I think there's what happens
It's
with Mardania in this episode?
so this
She's
episode,
like,
Galadriel comes and she's like, he's fine, everyone. He's totally fine. I've been there too. I've done that. So she has the guards release him. She's like, he is the Lord of Eregion. We're going to the front lines. So we go to the front lines with him, and now he has the guard backing him. But Merdania is still like, no, I don't think so. And he's trying to convince everyone that Anatar is Sauron. He's like, that Sauron sees him, and Sauron makes him lift his arm up and swing Merdania off the battlements, and she dies.
Yeah.
oh, right. Forgot about
He
Yeah.
Sauron frames Celebrimbor for Merdania's
I
death.
couldn't remember if that was this episode or the next episode. I'm trying
Yes.
not to slip any more spoilers in.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, she's done for, and they think that he might have done it. But yeah, Galadriel comes and says all is well. They do take Sauron into the forge, right?
They find him in the forge, and then the forge is now looks as it should. Everything's destroyed and stuff. And then Celebrimbor's like sees him. The guards all stand around Sauron with their blades drawn, pointed towards him. And the guard says, "Place him under arrest." And then he stops talking, and his neck looks all black. And then the guards point their swords at each other,
my
and
God.
Theron's doing little hand twitchy shit just by his side. You can tell he's using the force or whatever. And then he has the guards kill each other, and he has the one guard whose voice he froze comes at him, and that guard tries to stab him, and then he just easily like dodges it, takes the guard's sword, and cuts his throat. And I was like, that was some cool shit. That
It
was
was
a good
super
time.
cool.
I really
It was-
liked that. I liked seeing that very direct. Like I did enjoy the Twilight Zone-ness of keeping him keeping Celebrimbor in a Matrix, but seeing like this actual just like very direct kind of magic.
For sure.
So,
Yeah, I really liked this, and it was all done to give Galadriel time to get the 9 rings out of there. We missed that one
Yeah.
part because Celebrimbor was like, "I'm gonna go back. You take these rings and you go through the tunnels that we built a long time ago."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'll go stall." And then the guards of
I-
Eregion have that moment that they're like, "But you will not go alone."
Yeah.
You know,
Not alone. Yeah.
not alone, although it is yours to bear.
Yeah. Yeah. So they, he says like, "I am the Lord of Eregion," and then they go, yeah. So there were some really good moments. I think that he's played the hell out of this part. So he goes back in to deal with to stall. And what happens there?
That's what happens. That's the scene that Matt just described with the guards and the
Right. But
stabbing. Yeah.
anything more than that?
No.
After Sauron kills all the guards, I think then
It's
he comes up to Celebrimbor and he says that you will finish you will give me my
Gotcha.
the nine
Okay.
ranks.
and then I think that's where that thread ends.
Yeah.
And outside, you have Galadriel and Arondir meet up, right?
That's way before though, yeah.
Right. I'm just trying to hit some
She
other things that
yes,
happen
she
throughout this episode.
escapes. That's when she escapes from the hut and she's like
Yeah,
going
gets under
through.
the under the hood.
Yeah, and she's under the hood and they're like, help us bury these men. And
Oh, you there?
you have some pretty hair. And then
Yeah.
they're like grabbing at
What
her.
pretty
And then
locks you've got there.
arrow. So she like climbs up and it's Arondir and he's just like being so emo this episode. Oh my
Really
God. He
is.
has like his headphones in. He's listening to Taking Back Sunday. He is like having a moment on this orc encampment.
Mhm.
I just want to die. I just hope they kill me.
Yeah. The other thing throughout this is that the orcs are growing unhappy with Adar. We've seen this, I think, from the last episode too, where you had the deserters. So there is some growing discontent within the ranks because he is basically ready to sacrifice all of them because he thinks the fate under Sauron is that much worse.
And I will say, huge credit to the actor whose name we'll never know, who delivered the line
If only there was a way.
who delivered the line to Adar, but Adar, you said you loved us. And the fact that it was a delivery that didn't make me shit myself laughing, because the fact that that made it onto the page and then to the screen is insane.
Yep.
But it was like, I guess orcs also just want to be loved.
Matt, this is
Like,
a question
what are
for
we doing
you.
with all this war? These orcs just need a hug, just love them.
Yeah.
This is my question for you, Matt, and the same question you asked me. Do you like or not like trying to get us to empathize with the orcs? Like watching the orc wives hand off the orc babies and giving them families and a need to be
Yeah.
loved. Do you like this or do you not like this?
I'm not here for it. I don't want it.
I hate it.
I don't need it.
I hate it.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't need it. Keep orcs evil.
Yeah.
Is my campaign slogan.
Make orcs
Just-
evil again.
Mist him up and let him go. Like, don't
Mist
try
him
to
up.
make.
Get that spray bottle on them. Get them out the door.
Couple
Put a sword in their
spritzes. Yeah.
hands. They want to eat people. More that you said her line, Stacy, but I think you undersold the great Grimm's Tale-esque delivery from that orc lady who was like, "My, what pretty hair you have!" I
Yeah.
was like, okay, that was
Wasn't
great.
this like a line from Les Mis with like Helena Bonham
Yeah,
Carter like strumming?
What pretty locks. That's what I was saying
Yeah,
earlier.
I
That's
was
exactly what I was going for.
I don't know Les Mis. I don't know musicals. So.
Come closer, dear. What pretty locks you've got there. Yeah.
Great.
Les Mis. I also
These orcs are going through Les Mis.
yeah, we
right
don't need
now.
to see all of this orc stuff. We don't need to know that one orc dad had three of his orc sons die, and then they send in Adar to rescue the last surviving son. We don't
That
need to
orc-
know all the stories. What's that?
That orc just went into the hut after and was
Yeah.
like alone, and he was like, "I dreamed a dream in time gone by."
When hope was high and life worth living, I dreamed
I
that
can't take
love
part in
would
this
never
bit.
die.
Everyone
Yeah.
stop referencing.
I
Les
dreamed
Mis.
that
I don't
God
get
would
it.
be forgiving. On the tigers come at night. All right,
Gonna
that's enough.
One day more.
All right.
All that said, I still like Adar, even this new actor guy. And when he's crying over his orcs and stuff, it doesn't like not affect me. I am a little bit like, oh, Dadar like really loves his like orcs. That's kind of
Well,
nice.
that's the thing.
But does
I
he?
he
It does.
does well. I think for me at least, I really get the sense from this actor that Adar really truly believes that the best thing is that Sauron is not in power because his kids, his children, will suffer under Sauron, and he really truly believes that the price of some of the orcs or a lot of the orcs is worth paying to avoid that fate for future generations of orcs, so that one day they all can live the orc dream.
However, that's exactly what Sauron said in the first episode. It was this very laissez-faire.
Yes.
Some of you may die, but that is the risk I'm
Yeah.
willing to take.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true.
You
I
know,
mean, the
it's
the truth
it
that these orcs all need to realize is that they don't need any leader. Is that the leaders within themselves, and that
Yeah.
they should live their own lives and be servants to their own master, which is themselves.
Yes.
and
The wetness was in them the whole time.
Adar has some reckoning to do with how much of Sauron he sees in himself that he is trying to resist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, bottom line is Adar's still evil. He's still Team Morgoth. Let's not forget that fact. He just hates the shit out of Sauron.
Yeah,
Maybe he's
that's
jealous.
Yeah, I think he is.
and I thought they did a good job of making Adar appropriately evil still toward you're like treacherous. He's treacherous with the elves. Like he
Yes.
is maniacal, he's out for
Hmm.
himself. Still a bad guy. But compared to Sauron, we're like, Daddy Adar's kind of nice. He has love in
Yeah,
his heart.
not so bad.
Black
Uh,
holy.
there was also Damrod, the big troll.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
The big troll whose name we know. Damrod. Okay.
Damrod.
no,
Damn
Mike.
right we do.
We
Uh,
just call him Rod, so
Yeah, sorry.
this was a big fight. This is what got me thinking about the capacity for elves to fight effectively, because this troll took a lot of elves to bring down.
Yeah.
whereas Legolas, remember when he shot like those
Um,
arrows straight into the top of the head? Oh my
Casey,
God. But
remember, of
those were cave trolls. I don't know the difference.
course I remember.
Mike, do you want to tell me the
Well,
difference?
you got your field trolls, you got your cave trolls, you got your snow trolls that we saw in season one, and you got your trolls that are just on the internet all the time. Yeah.
That would be really terrifying if a bunch of internet trolls charged through the woods. I think actually we do have footage of that, and we cut to the Capitol on January.
Hmm. That is correct. 1 month out from election. Wonderful. Uh, all right. So yeah, they do bring down Damrod, the big troll. And I could have used a little bit more time. Used a little bit more time with the troll. I thought he was a cool character. You don't get a lot of personalities with the trolls. So I thought that was neat because the cave troll just comes in and smashes shit.
Yeah.
He was
This
smashing
one,
people, orcs,
yeah,
elves,
yeah.
stepping, throwing. He looked like my kids when they're in their playroom and they're
Well,
just throwing Legos around.
that's another thing that plays to what we were just talking about with Adar, when I think he says something along the lines of "send in Damrod" or "send him in," and then the other one's like, "But Lord, he's gonna squash all of us too," and it's like, well, I guess that's the price we have to pay. So he goes in, and why can't he? Why can't he? Because can he not tell the difference? Because he's real
Because
big, but he's not like an Oliphant.
I don't know what they had to do to get him to agree to fight and then keep him hidden for this long and then release him if he's just gonna go kill the orcs.
Yeah.
It just that part doesn't make sense to me, but I get the sense that like they understand that he knows he has to bring down the wall, but once he gets out there and he's doing his thing out there, I think he's just gonna
You're
start.
doing your thing.
He's doing it. I think he's gonna be really great. I think he just
Flipping in the
gets.
Mona Lisa veto.
Yeah, I think he just gets carried away. I think he just gets lost in the action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he holds two orcs up as like a face shield to stop arrows. But yeah, the trolls seem to be like contracted kind of mercenaries, like, or somewhere between a mercenary and like an animal, like that they are
Yeah.
taming to do warfare for them.
An
Or
agent of chaos.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They just need him to
Another
bring the wall down.
another moment to talk about quickly is the Boromir-ish moment.
What was that? That was crazy.
That was
Uh,
crazy.
who was that girl? Have we seen that person
No,
before?
no way.
Just intro this person out of nowhere. Elrond goes, "Well, who you what with one but with one arrow from your quiver, you could turn the tide of this war." And
Go
then
over
like,
there and do it. Go ahead.
and then that
We'll be over
actually
here.
happens.
Yeah.
And she like shoots that shot of the flaming arrow right into the catapult to make the catapult explode.
Hmm.
But yeah, the whole setup of that, where she gets shot with like more
Seven.
arrows of Boromir.
Seven.
Yeah.
Crazy.
A billion arrows. She's a
Yeah.
she's a pin cushion.
Yeah.
She gets up, she delivers the shot. That was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, were we supposed to like care when she
It
was
was a
hit by
no,
that?
it was a little unearned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was traveling with I think we may have seen her in the last episode. But yeah, they didn't do a great job of making us giving more screen time to build up the character. And once again, another situation, Matt, not to back you up, but I'm going to back you up.
Hey, no
Without
problem.
the Harfoots or spending more time on the Harfoot storyline, maybe we have more of that time so that that death hits a little harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have enough characters, expendable characters to care about when they die, and we have so many characters that we know aren't gonna die because we know Elrond and Galadriel aren't gonna die. You know,
Okay.
like there's just so many people we know will still be alive at the end of this, so we need more characters. Like in I keep bringing up Helm's Deep, the elf who comes to bring there was an allegiance of lords and elves
How
and
it
men.
wasn't Halbrand, Haldir?
Haldir. Like
Yeah.
we cared so much about him.
Yeah.
Dead.
We've come to honor that
That
allegiance.
wasn't extended cut though. We didn't see a lot of Haldir before the battle of Helm's Deep.
He was in
Mm,
Fellowship.
In the extended edition, not in the theatrical edition.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, theatrical cut, Kelly.
Hey,
yeah.
somebody's got to fill
All
in while
right.
he's off freaking working in the biz. Somebody's
I
got to
think
be.
that's most of what we've got going on. So where we're leaving things is it's pretty desperate on the battlefield. Adar has essentially um, won as if the election stopped today, Adar has won.
Oh,
Like,
Um,
cause the king shows up and he starts fighting, and then Arondir takes 12. Like he gets stabbed.
I was gonna
yeah,
say, yeah, the last big thing is
Yeah.
our Eregion is near death, I think.
yeah. So Arondir's near death. The king Elrond essentially more or less caught. You have all hell breaking loose at Khazad-dûm. Uh, and inside you have a face-off between Celebrimbor and Sauron.
And Galadriel's somewhere with the 9.
Yes. So that's
And
where
Got it.
yeah.
we're leading into episode 8, the last episode of the series
Which I'm sure we'll pick up
season.
with Grandolph looking for his staff and the Harfoots defending what I still think is future Shire, but I understand if everyone's not gonna.
It's
I
just
think we could
not. They're
be
not
wrong,
gonna.
but I'm still gonna believe.
They're not gonna terraform the desert. They're just gonna go find some hills.
Yeah. So let's do, because we're just covering the one episode, some winners and losers, and then we're out of here. So Matt, who do you feel lost more than the others?
Um, man. Who lost the mostest? I think Elrond's looking like a straight chump come the end of this episode.
Oh, and he was trying so
He
hard.
was trying so hard, but ultimately his plan, a bad plan. This was another plan that I wanted to talk about. A plan that was reliant on the armies that are in the midst of a gigantic coup.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best plan to lean on a kingdom that is in such inner tumult. That said, yeah, I think that's why Elrond's a big loser. And most of his army's dead. I don't know where his High King is.
His horse got its neck slit.
That was the worst
Oh
moment of the
yeah.
show. Hated that.
That was so gratuitous.
Yeah. Needless.
And yeah, and so the dwarves didn't show up, and he's captured. Yeah, it's pretty low state for Elrond.
He was
Yeah.
really sad, just looking and realizing that Durin wasn't gonna come.
They'll come. They'll be here. They'll be here. Just give me a few minutes, guys. They're coming.
I'm,
Promise.
I'm gonna text. I'm not getting any service. Do you have a phone? Can I borrow your phone?
But then
Yeah.
also he's
Must
just
not be
left.
going through.
I get that he's upset, but also like his army's down to like 4 guys, and they all just like went out and charged the orcs, and he's just staying behind crying about
Yeah.
where they are.
Useless.
I don't know, man.
He's
Pretty
been through a
useless.
lot.
Yeah. Stacy, who is your loser?
I hate to say it, but my man Celebrimbor. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that he
It's
is
rough.
like he's trying to stand on business. He is trying to reclaim his Lord of Eregionship, and he is like literally doing his best. So it's hard to kick him when he's down, but he is very, very down right now. He's been taken for everything that he is. He's forged the rings of power. Sauron
Yeah.
deceived him. I mean, he's in a tough spot. So I'm gonna say Celebrimbor. He's down a finger.
Yeah.
Big
I think
finger. A
there's
thumb is important.
a lot of losers. Those two are good ones, and I could go with either of those or back them up. But I'm going to go with, and why not, Mordania
Yeah.
as the loser of this episode because she had no real personality given to her throughout this series,
You
and
get
basically
this.
went around each episode to whoever gave her the most attention. And in this episode was seemingly there just telling everybody else what was happening. I thought that was fun. And then she gets even her death was a lie because she's going to die thinking that Celebrimbor pushed her off, and
Yeah.
that's not the case.
Yeah, they really did make her seem like she believed Anatar because he told her she was pretty, and she didn't like Celebrimbor because one time he forgot her name.
Yeah.
That really was the extent of it.
In this show that gets so much flack for being, like quote unquote too woke. I've never seen a female character lacking such agency in a show as
Yeah.
I have.
However, it is a little relatable because if Anatar told me I was pretty, I would also be a little flustered.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the actress did well with what she was given. She just wasn't given too much
Absolutely.
to do.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and as a character, that's a shame. Get just tossed aside like that. And as far as winners go, Stacy, who do you have as a winner?
My lady Galadriel. I think she
Fair.
escaped with the 9 rings of power. She
good.
escaped from the hut.
Pretty
She
good.
got a gentle smooch, and she's on her way out of Eregion, knowing that she was right about everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I think she's my winner right now.
Yeah, she was eventually right about everything.
Eventually, I mean, she
yeah.
guessed a lot, so eventually she had to be
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, because there was that long period where he was just some goop. And Matt, who was your winner?
One word. Meshuggah.
Okay.
Okay, give us
A
more
little
words.
more. Yeah, give us a word.
Meshuggah. Did you all not hear Jens Kidman, the singer from the death metal band Meshuggah,
At the
doing
end?
weird orc death metal over the
Yeah.
Oh my God, is that what that was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Meshuggah hasn't been talked about outside of the death metal world since 1999, I think. And here they
That's
are.
fair.
Jens Kidman making a name for himself in the Rings of
great.
Power soundtrack.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, Matt, I forgot about that until it ended, and that was the one time Amazon Prime didn't try to make me go to the next episode, and I was just sitting there listening, and I was like,
I was confounded. I wrote out a text to you all that I was like, I'm gonna need at least 10 minutes to talk about the death metal
Meshuggah.
end credits. But I was like, you know what? Let's wait to bring it up on mic. Couldn't believe it. Think it's a horrible choice, but I guess they want Meshuggah to I don't know, get a paycheck. Good for them. That's got to be fun.
Yeah. Congrats, Meshuggah.
Meshuggah.
I'm gonna go with Sauron. I'm gonna go with Sauron, Anatar, for getting away with it so far. Keeping his cards pretty close to his chest until it was absolutely necessary. Getting the 9 rings we know made. So there's that. And just kind of turned everything into an advantage.
Yeah,
So
I think his grip
that's
is
my pick.
slipping a bit. His grip is
Sure.
slipping, but I think he's
Up to this point.
he's coming out. He's still doing what he has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was mad when he found the rings were gone.
Yeah,
That was the
for sure.
first time I've seen him look like he's lacking a little bit of control here.
I like
Yes.
that. I like
Yeah.
that. I like
Mhm.
seeing that little bit of crazy in his eyes.
For sure.
Me too.
All right. Well, we will be back soon to talk about the final episode of season 2. That is season 2, episode 8. And then after that, we'll go back and do the Two Towers Awards and then the Return of the King Awards. I'm not going to give any timeline on when, but at some point. And also to our winners, Wafflemeister, the _ RJ, and Audrey. Email us at AOL.com. Beacons at xroadscomedy.com with some information on where I can send this. And we'll get you something nice in the form of a shirt. That'll actually be the start of the dialogue, because I'll have to get your preference and shirt size and everything. But we'll have your information. All right. I want to thank you, Matt. Thank you, Stacy. Thanks, Kelly. Kelly's going to come back at some point. Thank you all for listening. Bye.
Thanks, Mike.
I
dreamed a dream in time gone by, when hope was high and life worth living. I dreamed that love would never die. I dreamed that God would be forgiving. Then I was young and unafraid.